They took us to the equipment room, which was a plant room that had the heating system, it had the electrical fuse board. It was actually also a utility space as well. And it had an equipment rack that height-wise was probably 8 foot tall. You could not get this equipment rack out the door without dismantling, and it was loaded with technology. Drawers full of remote controls like Samsung remotes, Sky remotes, TVs that probably were no longer in the house, but the remote controls are still left behind. And then below that, there was amplifiers for the music system, and then some devices for plugging in all the power adapters, all with switches to isolate. Nothing labeled, no documentation, an inch of dust on the whole rack, blowing hot, seemed to be under strain, which other issues will be discovered in this property. Hey there, welcome back to Ramble. This is episode 7. I'm your host, Chris Gamble from Customized. We're an East Anglia-based smart home technology company providing services in the east of England and in London. Today's episode is a true Ramble, shooting from the hip, based on today's events, things that we came across during our normal work routine. And it's a situation that we're seeing maybe 20 to 25 times a year on year, we see this type of scenario. So a little bit of background. We got a call out last week for our services from a property management company who we've worked with on several other properties. And this was the first time they'd asked us to go and see this property in West London. We didn't have any backstory. We didn't know what technology or equipment was there. We just knew that there was an internet or Wi-Fi issue. So I went to the property, and beautiful house, stunning interior, classic period West London terraced property. And, we were just told the Wi-Fi is so slow, it's unusable. What can we do to improve it? And without us giving any response, the immediate thoughts of the client and the homeowner was, it must be the internet provider, or there must be a problem with the technology they have installed in the house, which is the only really two likely scenarios. So they took us to the equipment room, which was a plant room that had the heating system, it had the electrical fuse board. It was actually also a utility space as well. And it had an equipment rack that height-wise was probably 8 foot tall. You could not get this equipment rack out the door without dismantling it. And it was loaded with technology. It was the internal wiring, the Cat6 and the coax wiring for the whole property. There was Ethernet network switches, there was routers, there was hubs for the lighting control, the heating control system. There was Sky TV boxes, there was storage containers within the rack, drawers full of remote controls like Samsung remotes, Sky remotes, TVs that probably were no longer in the house, but the remote controls are still left behind. And then below that, there was amplifiers for the music system, and then some devices for plugging in all the power adapters, all with switches to isolate. Nothing labeled, no documentation, an inch of dust on the whole rack, blowing hot, seemed to be under strain, which other issues will be discovered in this property. But this customer had a general fear of that whole rack of equipment, and understandably, they had never been shown what this was doing. It was not intuitive or obvious what was what within the rack. Nothing was labeled to say that this is the plug for the router, this is the plug for the kitchen amplifier, this is the plug for the control system processor. All the things that were in this rack, you didn't know what turned on what. There were some cables unplugged, some had been labeled with tape that had just faded and was old. So there was no way of finding out what did what without calling in a Home Tech Pro. Now, they had a Home Tech Pro for a long time, but they became difficult to get hold of. And when they did fix things, it was always kept in their knowledge base. There was never a transfer of knowledge to say, if there's an internet issue, this is the device to unplug. This is the light to look for that may be flashing or on or off. None of those conversations were being had. The customer was being asked, or sorry, the homeowner was being asked to reset the router. And they said, I've done this 3 or 4 times and nothing has changed. Unfortunately, that customer and homeowner had been unplugging and plugging back in the hub for their lighting system. Now, that hub does look like a router. It's got a wireless antenna. It's got a power lead and an Ethernet cable attached to it. Every time they thought there was an internet issue, they'd been unplugging the hub for the lighting system. No labeling, no documentation. How were they to know any different? In the end, to solve the immediate problems, so they were having internet speeds of single digits, 2 or 3 megabits per second download, when not that they were going to get very, very fast speeds, but they should have been getting around 70 megabits per second download. Obviously, as a Home Tech Pro, immediately identified what was the router. In this scenario, it was a Draytech router. We, removed power from it, checked any cabling going into it, saw where it was attached to another router, a third-party system. We took that offline for power, and we took the network switches offline, just so that the whole network had a reboot. So in step, powered back on the internet service provider router, or in this case, a Draytech router, made sure that was happy with the lights for its connection, and it was getting a link to the outside world. Then repowered on the third-party router that the customer in this scenario was using, a Unify or HD Unify router, a USG, Unified Security Gateway, bit of a throwback, but still does a job. And then that was connected onto a series of network switches, providing connections to Wi-Fi access points, hardwired TVs, printers, set-top boxes, the music system, the control system, etc. Gave it that minutes that it needed to reboot. And lo and behold, the internet speeds returned to normal. Now, what caused that could have been, power outage. It could have just been a kind of slowdown in the incoming speeds due to the router not handling that incoming connection and then passing it on to the rest of the network. But a simple power cycle of the Draytech router, I'm pretty certain, would have solved this. The customer just didn't know what their router was. They had about 6 devices in this rack that looked like a router. Now, this is a strong argument for actually retaining and keeping the internet service provider's modem or router, so the BT hub, the Sky hub, the Virgin hub. Actually keeping that in place makes it an identifiable device to the homeowner and will help them if they're on the telephone or chat support with the internet provider. It can really help them identify an issue with the status of some lights, or if there's no power to the device at all. Consider keeping your broadband router in place, even if you have your own mesh Wi-Fi system like Eero or a Unify system that we've talked about and you see in our installations. But fundamentally, this is a rack full of equipment, not labeled, not documented, not maintained. And it just made it difficult to the homeowner to have any interaction with that tower of tech. What we're going to put into place is a simple transfer of that system to under our supervision and care. We will perform some simple maintenance, like just cleaning things up, labeling, some minor testing that might need done just to make sure everything's running to its optimum levels for firmware and battery levels, things like that. And then slowly, in stages, start to upgrade that. We talked to them about getting fiber optic to the property. They were under the impression from an old conversation that there was no fiber. There is fiber. It can be connected within a couple of days on that street. That's been put in place already. So they're going to see improvements to the speed. We are going to make some changes to the Wi-Fi system so that the wireless speeds will benefit from this increase in incoming internet speeds. So we're going to put in a Wi-Fi 7 system to have that full speed of this in excess of 1,000 megabits per second that they're going to have in just a few days. And we are going to do a small amount of training with the homeowner and the property management company what to do if the internet speeds slow down or they're disconnected, or you can't turn a television on or off, or you're not getting alerts from your doorbell, or you're not able to view a camera. How to, just as a minimum, turn things on and off, review the status lights of devices and what's normal and what might be showing an error status. Small amount of education, a small amount of time, a little refresh on the system to benefit from the faster speeds, and there's going to be a 180 flip for this client. They're going to be much more confident. They're going to know what to do before making that call to the management company or to ourselves. And again, it just lowers that fear factor of their home technology. It's more than likely that we'll go through some of the other systems in that home to do with the TV, the home theater, the home cinema sound system. It was straight away we knew that there was something not right in one of the rooms, that the sound was coming through the TV speakers and not through the sound bar and the AV receiver that we know was allocated to that room. That's just some simple configuration changes or some button presses just to turn off the TV signal. We may have even done that today, but time was against us. But we've done a proposal. We've earmarked those for future things that we will, once we've taken control of the network, once we've got the rack under management, then we'll better understand that system to provide further support, future updates, because like I say, some of it's 10 years old. That is a kind of benchmark for when things will need changed. That's whether that's a car, whether that's some furniture, whether that's some clothing, whatever it is you're purchasing. 10 years is a good lifetime for modern conveniences. Unless you like a vintage car, cool, go buy a vintage car. Nobody likes vintage tech. Other than turntables, valve amplifiers, please keep your tech up to date. Work with your Home Tech Pro or Bro to just maintain the levels. As internet speeds increase, have a Wi-Fi system that can handle it. As TV broadcastings get a higher resolution, have the televisions to display that new, vibrant, 8K coming around the corner. Have your system capable for that. And then keep it simple. Keep your apps up to date. Know how to interact with airplaying music, grouping music zones on your system, and maintain a dialogue with your Home Tech Pro. Subscribe to their newsletter, all the things that we say, follow them on social media, because you'll get those little drips of content from, your favorite Home Tech Pro. And here's where I can get some bite-sized tips and content and keep me aware that they're still around. They're still helping hundreds of other people, nearby to me. If I've got a problem, call in a Home Tech Pro. Okay, that was episode 7 of Ramble. A bit of a rant, a bit of a storytelling time, but hopefully there's something in there that you can take away for your system or your future system and some of the choices you might make for your home technology. Please like, share, subscribe, all the usual kind of podcast, YouTube things that you have to say nowadays. You can find us at customized.uk.com. There's on Instagram at customized1, X at customized. And you can also tune into another podcast I do, which is a much larger audience, the Digital Ramble, on all major podcast platforms. Search for that to see myself and JJ Cannon over there in Texas doing a weekly show talking about the latest in tech and interviewing some of the most famous faces in smart home. Thanks for your time. If you need anything, get in touch. Take care.